Hi there, this is Solitude from Solitude Films, and welcome to another double take. Today is a bit of a fun one. It's two films featuring Lance Henrikson and the idea of family. So it's Catherine Bigelow's 1987 vampire classic Near Dark, and Craig Baxley's 1991 Brian Bosworth biker action flick Stone Cold, which I believe actually has a helicopter being taken down by a motorcycle the year before Terminator 2. Both these films probably wouldn't be the same without Lance Henrikson. He's one of those actors that has done, I think, literally hundreds of films. He has appeared in some films that are not very good, but he always remains committed, and he never generally gives a bad performance. He's one of those actors who has one of those faces that he can either play the good guy or the bad guy or something in between. One of his greatest works is the TV show Millennium, which was created by Chris Carter of The X-Files, but in my opinion it's way better than The X-Files, even though it did kind of get bogged down in like the third series, where he plays somebody who gets into the mind of killers. So he goes to dark places and he just has one of those faces that can do that. So in Near Dark, as everyone will probably know, he plays the patriarchal figure of a vampire clan who are drifters in the American Midwest, really the desert states essentially, and Jeanette Goldstein plays the mother. Bill Paxton is essentially the younger brother / older son, depending how you want to put it, and then you also have the teenage or the younger boy who's actually an old man, Homer. And they also have the young daughter who gets involved with Adrian Pastar, who's the hero, and they have a bit of a romance, but that's not really the interesting bit of the film. The interesting bit in the film is this family unit, who the family that stays together, and just Lance Henrickson's wonderfully commanding performance. He can be funny and then he can be, completely bone chilling at a wink or a nice little glance. And in Stone Cold, which is maybe a little bit less well known, this is a highly enjoyable, cheesy, late 80s, early 90s action vehicle for Brian Bosworth, the ex-American football player, who, to be fair, isn't any worse than Sylvester Stallone or Steven Seagal in this role. But again, this film is really made by Lance Henrikson as Chains, the head of this biker clan. Again, the patriarchal figure. William Forsyth is his lieutenant, and Brian Bosworth is an undercover suspended cop with an attitude, who goes undercover and to infiltrate the gang. It's a lot of fun. It's really quite violent as well. It's kind of almost like it takes elements from Cobra, but it's way better than Cobra. It actually holds up very well. The attitude of the clan's kind of way towards women isn't very nice. They all have old ladies, but they kind of just swap them about and are just used. And it kind of comes to the point that I would quite like to make, or try and make, about kind of crime families, and because that's how they get people in. It's the same with terrorist cells. You are family, you don't have a purpose, we'll bring you in and we'll give you a purpose, we'll give you a sense of belonging. Society's treated you bad, but we'll treat you well, we'll give you everything you want. So for somebody that doesn't have a lot of choices, biker gangs or terrorist cells or vampire families can seem, a very alluring alternative. But of course, as with all crime families or families that are based upon a certain type of loyalty, as long as you do what we tell you, as soon as things start going wrong, then the idea of family and loyalty just goes out the window. And Chains, Lance Henrickson's character in Stone Cold, doesn't really hesitate to torture family members or shoot family members in the head at the slightest notice, or if it's a chance to save his skin, he won't actually stop at any acts of brutality or torture or death to try and get away. But the reason I think Stone Cold works is because Lance Henrikson, even though he does terrible things in the film, he's still a cool guy, and not all actors can do that. A lot of actors would just play as, I'm a terrible bad guy, and yes, there's a slight element of twirling a moustache in his performance, but he is also, you kind of root for him up to a point sometimes, and it's the same in Near Dark. You kind of would think it might not be the best place to be in a vampire family, but he would actually have your back. So I think that's the strength of Lance Henrikson, is the fact that even when he's playing bad guys that other people would maybe just play two-dimensionally, Lance Henrikson has the skill to still make them kind of likeable. The rest of the film has lots of explosions and lots of quite effective action scenes, and in that kind of genre I think it stands up really quite well against the kind of Schwarzenegger and Stallone and Seagal films. And obviously Near Dark is a seminal modern vampire film, despite the fact that the word vampire is never actually used. There's no teeth and flying and changing into bats. It's essentially an urban western, and they are essentially almost like a biker gang without the bikes. They use RVs and blacked out windows, vans and station wagons. So I hope you've enjoyed this rather silly video, but I think Lance Henrikson is an underrated actor, and I think we should actually give him more credit, considering he makes a lot of films. A lot of them aren't great, but if you've got Lance Henrikson in them, they're always worth watching. And again, the idea of family and crime films is as old as the hills. The idea of loyalty, until things start going wrong. So thanks very much for watching this episode of Double Take. Please leave comments below what you think of these films and how wrong I am, and hopefully we'll see you again. This is Solitude Ronin saying thanks very much for watching, and farewell.